대살구슬해보죠.
유세차임이 한기가 엄청나네.
Exuma. So, I saw this pop up on Shudder a couple weeks ago, and after hearing it get good reviews, I was curious enough to check it out. The plot honestly seemed a little thin, and the runtime was very intimidating just staring at it, as it sits at about 134 minutes. Oh no, that's pretty long. But I didn't have anything else to do, so I forced myself to sit down and start this up, curious if this would be a run-of-the-mill ghost story, or maybe an interesting slow burn style ghost film, or maybe surprise me and be an action horror film like The Witch Part 1, which I need to actually watch the sequel soon. But I was in for a surprise. This film certainly starts out as and is kind of a normal ghost story until about the halfway mark. Then it suddenly takes a hard genre shift into a cult mystery and creature feature of all things. Color me pleasantly surprised. In that way, this film kind of justifies that runtime because it is essentially two 75-minute TV episodes smashed together, but with what they can put into movies instead of TV shows. The first half is a decent ghost story setting up a mystery and using some fun imagery, and that sets up the more complicated Buddhist and Taoist occultism that comes into play later, while the second half dives fully into the ghosts and ghouls and mysticism while ramping up the stakes and gore. That's a hard gamble to pull off, but I think that this movie handled it relatively well. So what is this movie even about? Let's get into it, and you're gonna have to pay attention because this is a little complicated, and I can really only tell you the plot for the beginning of the movie. Everything else is a spoiler. So, Exuma is a Korean film following 4 people that deal with the occult and the dead. Also, I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. I do not speak Korean. Hwa-rim is a famous Buddhist shaman with her apprentice named Bong-gil, and they are hired by a wealthy Korean American family to remove a curse affecting their newborn. In order to do so, Hwa-rim traces the curse to the family's deceased ancestor and hires a feng shui expert called a geomancer and a mortician in order to exhume the grave and cremate the corpse according to their religious beliefs and those practices. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in knowledge in Buddhist practices. So, But in so doing, when they exhume the coffin, discover that some graves shouldn't be messed with, and the mysteries surrounding this ancestor and his history start to unravel. I genuinely cannot say more without spoiling the rest of the film, but there's a lot there just to get started. Honestly, maybe too much. This movie does a really good job of informing the audience about certain plot beats and their significance later on in the movie, but some general historical knowledge about Korea and about the Japanese occupation of Korea back in 1910 would certainly help. The movie uses this time frame to explore a lot of instances between Japanese and Korean relations, while also diving into extremely specific Buddhist and Taoist mysticism and mythology. There are even a couple of Japanese yokai in here, for some reason, that play very specific roles later on in the movie and hold very important symbolic significance, such like the snake-headed woman called Inori Onna that has a very weirdly important role here that I'm not going to spoil. You probably recognize this one from that new horror game going around, Pool Rooms, I think. There's a snake woman in that. I don't know if I got that correct or not. Whatever. You'll correct me. I know you will.
I have no clue. Game name Scuba Steve. This game is not fucking Scuba Steve. Who's Scuba? Oh, no.
There are also a few scenes with what I believe to be accurate depictions of shamanistic rituals of the Korean area that include a lot of banging of drums, shouting and dancing, blood swallowing, stabbing already dead pigs. There's a lot of weird things like that. In that way, the film kind of reminded me of the 2016 Korean film The Wailing. Full disclosure, I was not a fan of that film and I find it to be rather overrated, but I don't know, maybe I just didn't fully understand it. It was back in 2016, so I thought it was really loud and really obnoxious, but that seems to be the case with a lot of these rituals. And this one just didn't overstay its welcome like I felt The Wailing did. This one was a lot more fun with them. Even if they were pretty loud, it was still interesting to see Hwa Rim be entranced while doing it, kind of, and getting really excited, treating it kind of like a rock show. It was very interesting. So at least the rituals here were just as accurate as The Wailing, I think anyway. Exuma features a lot more mysticism talk, especially in the second half, that I just love to see in foreign films like this. The acting is pretty strong from our main four. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. Kim Gun as Hwa Rim and Lee Do-hyun as Bong Gil were standouts throughout the film, and they even won awards for Best Actress and New Actor. That's actually really cool. I think they deserved it. Although I think Go-yeon did the best job with what she had to do in the film. Everything from her ritual dances to acting scared late in the film and her impulsiveness early on and just her genuine knowledge of everything going around. She kept such a cool head immediately going into what she needed to do mystic-wise. I thought that was really cool. It just really fit Hwa Rim's character and she nailed it. Choi Min-sik as the geomancer Song-duk had a wonderful pensiveness to him that worked tremendously well for the character, especially when he started realizing just how ominous the grave in particular is. Really enjoyed that. Yoo Hae-jin as the mortician Young-gun was just okay overall. His character was more of the straight man following along with the supernaturally gifted trio, so there just really wasn't too much for him to do besides comment on the sidelines and drive the hearse. He's memorable, but that's about it. And speaking of slight letdowns, the first half of this film is really mid. There are some creepy moments and some really cool scenes where ghosts appear in reflections and are very blurry, and apparently these were shot with characters in ghost makeup and were just blurred out using the lighting. I like that, that's cool. But otherwise, there's just not really much going on with this, as it serves only to kickstart the mystery for the second half. The second half, though, is fantastic. It's a lot of fun, and it ups the stakes in every category. It ups the danger, ups the gore, ups the mysticism, everything. It's almost an entirely different movie, but it requires the information from the first half in order to properly follow along and figure out the mystery with the characters. Some bits aren't that mysterious, like the yokai I mentioned, if you understand the symbology, and others just aren't explained at all, at least in their entirety anyway. For example, there's one character from the past that is brought up several times, being known as a monk named Gisune, that is known to be a fox monk, that I'm certain is a misunderstanding by the Korean characters of the Japanese word kitsune, especially with the fox imagery and motifs, but it's never definitively stated. I guess it's not that important to the story and it's just kind of bugging me, but still, I would have liked some confirmation there. This was written and directed by Jang Jae-hyun, and this is actually his first film in 5 years. He's done other ones, he's just taken a break. I haven't seen the others, but maybe I'll check them out. I think he has a really neat directing style, especially with the mirror shots with the ghosts and the on-location scenic shots and views. I think the story is pretty strong, but like I said, it was a huge risk splitting the film into 2 distinct parts like that. Even if the movie itself is split up into several different chapters, I don't know. I kind of like it and I kind of don't. I had an issue with the length, and I do think it is too long, with some scenes that definitely drag out just a little too long than they really should, which is an issue that Terrifier 2 had. This one kind of has that, where some scenes are just a little too long. And the reason for them being too long is to either up the tension or just to look pretty. But I can also forgive that length because the chapters make it easy for someone to compartmentalize the different beats of the film and even take an intermission after the first story concludes if they really want to. So I'm still a bit torn here, but I think overall it is a very digestible film that can and should be viewed by more people regardless of its length. If I were to improve the film, well, there's just not a lot here I would change in general. I guess I'd expand the first half a bit, make the ghost more intimidating, and have some more gore and creepy shots, but that's pretty much it. It does have one extremely predictable and overused ghost movie trope as well that I'm half sure is an homage to The Grudge and also an homage to The Exorcist, but I'm not entirely sure. It just needed some more creep factor overall. Maybe they could have cut a little more exposition and focused more on creep factor, but otherwise it's just okay. The second half is great. Had a wonderful time with it. I don't need to add anything. I guess that's my only real issue with this film. The first half is okay, but it's also needed for the second, which is a huge step up in production, but I can see people getting bored and just turning the movie off after the first half is done. It has a very definitive end before it jumps into the second part. So, I'd say stick with it. It's a very different movie after that middle section, and all the better for it. But overall, I wouldn't be surprised if people get frustrated with that. Not to mention the general historical knowledge of the Japanese occupation of Korea and the relations between the countries needed to better understand later plot points, plus feng shui, I guess. But hey, this wasn't made for American audiences. And hey, if you love occultism and especially mysticism, specifically surrounding Taoist and Buddhist ideals, I think you're gonna love this movie. So, I don't know, give it a watch. I'd say that ultimately, Exuma gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. Yeah, I know, I didn't get to the movies again, but hey, this one was actually a lot of fun. And hey, I like foreign films that dive into foreign mythos and explore new ideals. And I gotta say, I wasn't expecting a horror movie so focused on this weird 35 years of history that it's not my country, so I don't fully understand, but I guess had a lot of weird mysticism surrounding it. Like it was a battering of religious and occult ideals between the two. There's some really interesting ideas that I'm not sure if they're actually real or like a myth of the time or something. It seems very, very weird. Like it had a focus on Japan trying to weaken the spirit of Korea itself, which, okay, sure. I'm not gonna pretend to fully understand that, but it made for a good movie plot and a really fun mystery, even if I didn't fully understand all of the historical context. But hey, that's why we have commentators who talk about this later. So, I don't know. I thought it was fun. What did you guys think? Did you see this? I really think more people should. This is fun. Give an intermission if you need it. The second half is much better, but you still need the first, so stick with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. After that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video. And yeah, that's it. Have a great day, and if you're not, have a better one. See ya.
I'm just a ghost in your stereo. The fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost song alone. And I'm just a ghost in your stereo.